All right. What's up, y'all? Back in the flesh. Takeaways with Tay on this Sunday, this Labor Day weekend. Let me turn this down. It's been a great week. It's been a great week. Um, first and foremost. But we're tapping in this Sunday. There's a lot of things that have occurred this week. One of them being the most important. Me and my best friend, London Elixir, we released a song today. So I came out of retirement. Not really, because I haven't retired. But me and London released a single. It's called Bye, and it's available now on all streaming platforms. So if you haven't already, go ahead, check it out, stream it. Um, there's an interesting story behind it. First of all, me and London, she's also known as Jasmine Brooks. That's her actual name. She's gonna be mad at me because I'm putting her government out here. But we go as far back as high school buddies, neighborhood, lived down the street from one another. We played on the same basketball team. Both moved to Atlanta, and so it's been incredible, like just following our journey through music and through friendship and things like that. So we'll be sharing the story behind the song that we created. Like I said, the song is called Bye, so definitely stream it if you haven't streamed it. But we'll be sharing that story of, the whole backdrop of how that song came about, what we were like tapping into, and what else. Um, Really just like what brought us to that point. There's a lot with that song, so definitely stream it if you haven't. Also, I hope you guys are enjoying this weekend because we get a 3-day weekend for those of us who work Monday through Friday. So enjoy this time. Get you some nice food if you got invited to a cookout. But today's topic, so super controversial, super duper controversial. I'm gonna just start it off like that. Um, I've been talking a lot to people, especially friends, about relationships. And a lot of my friends, some of my friends are in really, great relationships, and they're enjoying it. They're thriving. Shout out to them. I want to be like you when I get older. Just kidding. Um, we've been talking about relationships, and how some people, are struggling, like they're breaking up, they're going back to exes, and things are not working out and things like that. But yeah, there's a lot of things going on in relationships, that are not necessarily good things. And I think, like, if you can just pay attention to like what's going on social media and things like that, like, you can see how evident it is that, like, collectively society is having trouble fostering healthy relationships. So, the book that I was reading is called How to Love Someone Without Losing Your Mind. Yeah, I'm gonna just let that sit, cause yeah, how to love someone without losing your mind. Especially, see, okay, this is an interesting topic because if you're anything like me, right, you have been in love before, and you don't just like love someone like half-ass, right? You love them wholeheartedly, you love them deeply, and when that love is gone, it's like your mind is literally like you can't think of anything else. That's all you think of is that relationship and how you can get that relationship back and blah 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 blah. Like, so this is an interesting topic. The author is Todd Baratz. He's an author. He's a therapist, and I hope I said his name correctly. I was all over the internet trying to figure out how to say his last name. I'm not gonna lie, but if I butchered his last name, I'm sorry, Todd. We appreciate your contribution to this conversation. But yeah, so something the world seems to be struggling with: love, relationships, healthy relationships. It's either you're in a relationship and you guys are just doing it because you're just going through the motion because maybe you got children and you have businesses, and you're trying to keep things stable and comfortable, so you're just dealing with someone because it's the easiest thing to do. Or maybe you're not in a relationship, or you haven't been able to establish a healthy relationship, or whatever the case may be. But the biggest thing is that as I was reading this book, it was like Todd was trying to give like this reality check. So he's like basically like, here's the reality check on love. Like whatever you thought love was, get that out your head, toss it, put it in the trash, and take this. So he says, first takeaway is that adult love is conditional, uncertain, and risky. Now, when I was reading it, I was like, dang, conditional, uncertain, and risky. I agree with uncertain. I agree with risky. Conditional, though, kind of got me. I'm not going to lie. Because I'm like, what do you mean? What does he mean when he says conditional? Like, does that mean that if you take away certain conditions, then the love is no longer, like, it's not, technically it's not love to me if it's conditional. So like, how could you call something conditional? How could you call love conditional is what I was thinking. And so like I was reading that and I was just like, yeah, like what, this don't make sense. But as I kept reading it, I was like, okay, this kind of makes sense, because his whole premise is that there are, in relationships when we're looking for like that perfect person or like that perfect whatever, we kind of have these conditions that we hold people to, and that's what makes it conditional. Like that's the expectations and things that we might have in relationships, like that's the conditional part. So he talks about like red flags and how like we have like defenses when we're dating or when we're in relationships, and a lot of times those red flags are, yeah, they're good to have. Like, of course, like you don't want, if you can spot toxic behavior before it becomes, detrimental to you, then by all means, call it a red flag, a red flag. But he was also saying like, sometimes we have defenses and we don't need to have those defenses up. So like we have our guard up, and we're oftentimes like, when we're dating or talking to someone, we're always looking at it from a standpoint of like, I'm not going to let you hurt me, or, I'm going to keep my guard up, and I'm only going to expose myself certain this much so that you can't hurt me, blah, 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 blah. Like we kind of go into it with the anticipation almost of that this person is going to hurt me, or that this person is going to try to take advantage, or this person is not like the best, or whatever the case may be. And, like he says we're all about protecting ourselves and our independence, driven by our past relationship traumas. And I thought that was interesting, because it was like, you really wouldn't know what to look out for had you not had that trauma previously. So it's like, in a way, like the trauma can almost stop you from something beautiful, because you're looking at the person, you're looking at it through the lens of, you're looking at them through the lens of the trauma that you've experienced. And like I said, it's okay to have like, I guess you could say, boundaries and like expectations, or like what you're not gonna go for, just so you know like what it is, and they know. But like anticipating hurt and anticipating for somebody to like take advantage of you is not good. And I feel like, some people are more prone to that than others. Like I'm a Scorpio, so I feel like as Scorpios, kind of always looking for somebody to do we kind of always are always looking for somebody to do something. Like it's always like we always got our guard up, or like like trying to like flaunt, or like wear this, like, I guess you could say, this mask that like, oh, you're not about to get over on me, like, nope, try somebody else. What's the song? Try Jesus, don't try me, or something, whatever the song is. But like I feel like that's common amongst us, and I'm gonna only speak for Scorpios because that's what I am. But yeah, and he talks about how like encountering problems doesn't mean you're with the wrong person. And that kind of made me think like how sometimes, especially like listening to different people talk about their relationship problems, like my friends and things like that, and how they'd be like, like, I'm gonna break up, like I'm gonna break up with them, and I'm just gonna move on. And I'm just like, are you really sure that you really want to do that? Because like, man, I'm single, I'm out here in this dating pool, and let me tell you, this is not for the weak. Okay, if you got somebody that respects you and loves you and cares about you and values you and admires you, Like, I don't care if they're not disrespecting you, if they're not putting you in harm's way. Like, I feel like you can work it out, or at least try to work it out. Like, so I don't ever advocate like for breaking up, and not unless the person is just like blatantly disrespecting you, disregarding you, not willing to change if you bring something to their attention, but like if you have somebody that genuinely loves you, cares about you, and wants to see you do well in life, like, I'm an advocate for please work it out, because this dating pool, you don't want to be out here in these streets. There's nothing out here. There's no quality out here, right? But everybody's just like, they're breaking up. They feel like they can find better. They feel like they can do better, and to each his own. But, Todd, our author here, he's like, just because you have a problem with someone or within a relationship doesn't mean that that's the end. It just means that you guys need to communicate, figure out how you can overcome the problem. And, if nobody's willing to change and talk about the problem, then that's a whole nother story. But if you're willing to change, if you're willing to take the steps necessary as a union to get to that next level in their relationships, then by all means. And also, sometimes it's not about like our partner, but getting to know our needs and becoming more self-aware. Like, a lot of times we think that if somebody's not doing what we think that they're supposed to be doing in a relationship, that it's because of something's wrong with them, right? But a lot of times, like, sometimes we don't really know how to communicate correctly what it is that we need, or sometimes we're not even self-aware enough to even know what our triggers are or why things trigger us, in order to communicate that to that person, and then in turn help them love us. Like, nobody can tell you how to love you. Like, nobody can tell you how to love you better than you can tell them how to love you, if that makes sense. So, like, basically, the way that you love yourself, the way that you pay attention to yourself, is going to dictate the way other people love you and treat you. At least like most people. Sometimes you might just have an angel that comes into your life, and regardless of if you show yourself love, they just show up, they got this cape on, and they just like, I'm gonna love you because I'm just gonna love you. You didn't show me how to love you. You didn't teach me how to love you. I just know you need love, and I'm gonna love you. Like, sometimes, God just be blessing people like that. So that's a thing too. But so takeaway number 2. This is the most controversial. This is the most controversial part of it, because we live in a world where everybody and everything always tells us that there's this perfect person that exists in the world. And, I feel like I've touched on this before in previous episodes, where I've said that love is not perfect. It's not a fairy tale. There's going to be things that you have to get through. It's ups and downs. You can't have the good things without having the bad. It's a give and take type of ordeal. And so the author, Todd, talks about how chasing perfection in a relationship leads to disconnection. And I was like, dang, I had to really think about that, because it kind of made me think of this story of like this young lady who was very attractive, very beautiful, and she was pursuing different men in her life, right? She was looking at different men, all for different reasons, and there was always one thing wrong with the guy. It was either he was too short, too dark, smiles crooked, didn't have enough hair, too funny, didn't wear the clothes the right way. Like, it was always one thing wrong with each person. And eventually, right, she keeps turning down all these people. Like, over time, she's just turning down all these people. And one thing you know about time is that it doesn't stop for anyone. So as she's turning down all these people, she's getting older. She's starting to have gray hair. She's starting to get wrinkles in her face. Her things aren't holding up like they used to, like the weight is coming, like whatever you want to call it, right? She's just aging is taking a toll on her body. And she gets to this river. She looks at the river. She looks at the water. She looks at herself. And keep in mind, she's all alone because she's turned down all these wonderful men her whole entire life. she's all alone and she's looking in the water and she's like, man, like, what have I done? Like, I've literally turned down so many people looking for this perfect person, and now I'm here and I'm just by myself, and like, I'm literally about to, basically, I'm on my deathbed and I don't have anyone. And I thought that was that story, like, when I heard that in the book, or when I read that in the book, it reminded me of that story, because it was just like, we think that we have the time to find the perfect person. And I think the worst thing that we can do is take advantage of time. When I say take advantage of time, when you think about time is the only thing that we really don't know how much of it we have. We don't know if we'll have the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months to find love, or to make meaningful connections. So the perfect time to begin to make meaningful connections is now. And there's another part of that I kind of want to tap into too, but I'll wait for a second. But essentially, like, when we're focused on all the wrong things, it takes away from us being able to be present with someone and see them for who they really are. Like, you might not have a head full of hair, but like, who you are at your core, and like what you contribute to a conversation, or, you know, just being present with that person, you can start to see all these other beautiful aspects of the person that make up that person. And so the author talks about how, like, we're too busy over analyzing and worrying about how much the other person might hurt us in the future, and he calls it hurt potential. And instead, we need to see people as individuals with their own histories and needs. And like, I thought that was super important, because it's like, at the end of the day, like, these bodies that we're in are going to go back into the earth, and what's going to be left is just, like, you know, our spirits, our souls, and, you know, how we treated people, things like that. So it's like, sometimes we get so wrapped up on the physical aspect. And don't get me wrong, like, you want to be attracted to someone, especially if you're going to be with them for the rest of your life. Like, let's not act like beauty doesn't matter, guys. Okay, we're not gonna be shallow, but we're also not gonna be unrealistic. Okay, but yeah, like, beauty matters, but also, like, there's a balance. There's beauty, and then there's also, you know, personality and other characteristics that a person might bring to the table outside of just like that one thing that they're missing. Like, it's like, man, if you don't stop focusing on that one thing, you about to miss out on your blessing. You about to miss out on what God sent you, because you too worried about having this perfect look, or you concerned about how your children gonna turn out, or I don't know. Like, you feel like person got a big nose and your children gonna have big noses. I don't know. But all that is out the window. You know, like, you just gotta learn how to love yourself, learn how to accept your insecurities, so that you can then in turn accept other people for who they are, and build beautiful things. And then also, like, if you turn down people because of they miss one thing, or like, you know, they're not, they missed the ball on one aspect of your long list of things, right? You also, it's like, when you can't connect with them in that aspect, then you, like, basically disconnect altogether, right? And I think that can be applied too in like careers and jobs and things like that, because it's like, when you're dealing with people, right, the more that I've learned how to handle different people, I don't know if that was the right word, but be in a team setting, right? I've realized that everybody's not perfect, and also, if I get upset and disappointed because of that one thing that they didn't do right, then I allow the relationship to kind of just stay there. Like, it ends at that point that they didn't do something right, and then in terms it messes up the opportunity for us to have a better relationship or a different kind of interaction, because of that one thing that, like, I feel like they dropped the ball in. And I can be honest, that's something that I'm definitely, like, working on. It's not easy, just because of the type of person that I am. But I realized that, like, you know, everybody has their shortcomings. Everybody's not as, I know I'm intense. I know I'm, like, super extreme sometimes, like, and everybody's not like that. You know, some people are a little bit more laxy days. Some people are a little bit more calm and just, like, go with the flow, you know, like they just be out here chilling and that's their life. And me, I'm like structured, organized, gotta be here by this, gotta do this by that time. And I feel like if people aren't doing that too, then it's like we can kind of clash sometimes. So I'm learning how to, like, you know, be a little bit more fluid there. But I just said that to say that, like, I don't think it just applies to just like intimate relationships. I think it applies to just relationships in general in order to foster healthy relationships, whether it be intimate or business or, you know, platonic, things like that. Okay. So another thing that I thought was super controversial when I was reading this book, right? There was just a lot of controversial things in this book. I'm not gonna lie. It was a good book, but it was just like, I don't know if I agree with that. Because, okay, so, and it could just be me, but I'm gonna say it, right? So y'all can hear it too. He says to embrace love and what it might bring. So he's saying, like, get attached. Allow yourself to cling. Develop feelings. Like, he's like saying all the things that, like, I feel like me and people like me are just like, no, like, don't get attached. Don't cling to the person. Like, don't develop feelings. No, because if you do that, then you're like a sucker, and I'm just playing. You're not a sucker. But no, like, it's okay to develop feelings. It's okay to get attached. It's okay to allow yourself to cling to someone. I just think there's also like a delicate balance because you don't want to lose yourself. Like, yeah, you can cling to them and develop feelings and blah, 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 but like, you also don't want to lose yourself in that process. So like, I do believe that there's a level of healthiness to that. But once again, like, don't be the person that's like, as soon as you get into a relationship, it's like you and that person, and that's it. Like, y'all just go and do whatever, and then you disregard all your friends, all your family, and you act like nobody else exists. Like, don't be that person. Because I have friends that are like that, and I be having to call them out on it because I'm just like, you was not like this. You was not like this outside of this relationship. So I'm gonna need you to bring it back in and remember where you come from, because I'm offended. But yeah, don't be that person, because when that relationship ends, and, you know, of course I don't want things to end. Like, I wouldn't wish that the relationship to end. Like, if the relationship ends, then it's like, now you coming back and you're like, oh, let's go do all the things we used to do. And it's like, you just literally just like push me to the curb. Like, don't push people to the curb is what I'm saying. Like, when you do find love, because you don't want to drown yourself in someone else's orbit. You want to have your own orbit, and they have their own orbit, and you guys just bring it together, and now you guys are revolving together. You see how I put that together? All right. But also, those are healthy signs of your capacity to love. So, like, the more you are able to embrace love and like get attached and develop feelings and like allow yourself to cling, like, those are all healthy signs that you have expanded your capacity to love. So good job to you. Also, this was another thing that I thought was super controversial too, because the author was like, don't wait to be healed before you get into another relationship. And I was like, he said, don't wait to be healed. Don't wait to be ready. And I had to think about it. Like, so if you ended a relationship and it didn't necessarily end on a good note, how do you just go into another relationship and expect for it to be different? That's just me. This I don't agree with, and I'm just keep it. I don't agree with it. I don't think that you should. And I don't know if the author was like saying jump from relationship to relationship, but essentially he's saying like you don't need to wait until you're healed to be in a relationship. Y'all let me know what y'all think, because I don't know. To me it's not taking the time to heal, not taking the time to process rebounding. That's what it's giving to me. But I don't know. I could be wrong. Like, I'm open to the possibilities, but I just don't think that you should, especially if the relationship was like a deep relationship and you like really, you and this person really connected. I just don't see that going well for the next person that you get in a relationship with. I just feel like they're going to take the grunt of everything that you didn't decide to heal from. But I think this author is a proponent for like failing forward and bumping your head as many times as possible and getting it wrong as many times as possible so that you can see where you need to change. And maybe that's my perfectionism that's inside of me, is like, I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna bring anybody into this situation until I figure out what the heck is going on with me. But you know, I don't know, if it's worked for you, then it's worked for you. But I don't know, I just don't agree with it. I don't think you should get in a relationship until you're ready, or until you're healed. Ready is a different story. Healed. And also, healing is not linear, so I guess I could understand it from that perspective. But I think that there has to be a certain level of like healing that you have had to have reached in order to get into another relationship. But okay, takeaway number 3. Now this one's probably the most controversial of them all. It says, Lou says, depends on the person, they may be able to tolerate more. Okay, I can see that. Somebody who can tolerate, who has a higher tolerance, they might be able to move on quicker, like go ahead and get into another relationship quicker. I can appreciate that point of view. Okay, so takeaway number 3 is befriending your ex is not all bad. Yes, I said it. Befriending your ex is not all bad. Now, so I've had conversations with people and I'm like, do you still talk to your ex? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, how do you still talk to your ex? Are you just like cool, or do y'all ever bring up, anything? And they're just like, no, we're just cool. Like, we never bring up anything, blah, blah, blah. Like, we know what happened, but we don't see each other like that anymore. And so the author is basically like saying that he says, better to understand why they stick around. So when you're in a relationship and it doesn't work out, you guys break up, and you guys decide to like still stay in contact, he says to basically understand why you guys are sticking around. Like, is it because you just genuinely want to like know how the person is doing, or like you care about the person and you just want to make sure they're good, or are you trying to keep up with the person? Like, are you trying to still slide in the person and like, maybe hoping for round 2 and things like that. So like, he's basically saying like different people process breakups differently. And so sometimes going cold turkey works for others. And then sometimes, being able to still have that window of communication it also works for others. And I never understood that, because I think I'm a cold turkey type of person where it's like out of sight, out of mind. So I never understood like, befriending an ex, because I don't think it would work for me. It depends. I think it depends too, because some exes, I don't really care. Like, it is what it is. But then others, is like, absolutely not. No. But only you know what's best for you. So only you can know, like, if it's good, if you stick with the person, like if you allow this person to still be in your orbit after you guys are broken up, or if you want to just like, if you would rather, out of sight, out of mind, no longer want to have this person have access to you. Totally up to you. But he says that heartbreak has a way of causing old trauma to resurface. And so that is true. And that is something that definitely, like, you have to be very sensitive to, and you have to be very kind to yourself, because when you are dealing with a breakup and a loss, like, yes, there are things that are re-triggered that bring to the surface. Like, you once had this person that you loved dearly, you cared about, and now you guys are just like, it's no more. Like, so that can bring up all types of insecurities, all types of abandonment issues, all types of, animosity, things like that. Like, because you're just trying to figure out why did it have to end like this, or why did you allow yourself to open up in this aspect, and then now you're hurt, and now you got to re-heal again, and now you have to put a band-aid on this, and now you got to go figure out why this person, or there's just so many thinking, like, cans that are left opened. So you definitely have to be kind to yourself and know that, yes, heartbreak is like terrible, and losing anyone, whether it's like physically or just in a relationship, is a tough thing. It's a very tough thing. It's a very sensitive topic. But it's necessary. Like, when you do lose someone, there's something that you need to learn, or some type of growing that has to take place, and that growing is oftentimes necessary for you to be able to establish the healthy relationships that you need in your life. So although it sucks, it sucks, but you'll get through it. Like, if you just continue to have like a good, solid people around you that you can call on, depend on, and just, take advice from, like, that's always important. And it oftentimes speeds up the process because it helps takes your mind off of things like that. But you don't just get over like a loss. Like, this concept of, like, you have a breakup and you guys are no more, and you just getting over it. It's like, that's not realistic. Oftentimes you just learn how to live life with that loss. You just, that loss becomes a part of you. It becomes a part of your story and who you are and how you love from that point on. It just becomes a part of you, and accepting that is the biggest thing, I think, that to help you get to move forward and move past that. It's just like accepting that, it's done, it's over, and I'll probably never get over this, but I will learn how to live with it, and I'll continue learning how to live with it, and then eventually, everybody dies. So it's like, no, I'm just I'm being funny, y'all, but okay, so this leads me to my last question. Also, like, before we actually wrap up this all, make sure y'all tune in every Sunday at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This never changes. It's always 7 o'clock every Sunday. Takeaways with Tay. So, very last question I have, right? After all my takeaways, is that, when is it okay to spin the block? When is it okay to spin the block? Personally, if I had to answer this question, I would say never. Say, no, I'm just playing. I think it depends. I think it depends on your intentions, and I think it depends on how the relationship ended. Because a lot of times, like, the way that the relationship ended, it kind of dictates where you spin the block at, like, where the next time you spin the block at it, if that makes sense. I do think that, like, sometimes I don't want to be like one size fits all, because sometimes, like, yes, your ex is your ex for a reason. You guys need to let it go. You were not good for each other. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong person, all that. But other times, I do feel like it's a matter of just right person, wrong time. And sometimes you just need to, like, sometimes you just need to be a little bit more mature, or be a little bit more, the other person might need to have a little bit more self-awareness or things like that. Like, sometimes I think that could be a situation too. Spin the block for what purpose? Yeah, that's a good question. Like, I think if you are spinning the block, you have to ask yourself, like, why, and, like, what do you get out of it? Like, what are you really looking to get out of it? And sometimes I feel like where it becomes, like, spinning the block becomes, like, toxic is, like, if you're just trying to, like, see if your ex is just gonna, like still rock with you or whatever the case may be. Like that's not, I don't think that's good. But like let's say like you and a person like genuinely like had a really good vibe, right? Y'all really connected, y'all really valued one another, admired one another, respected one another, and the relationship ended because it got to a point where you guys were just both like, okay, right here, right now, we're not growing. But let's say that there's still like feelings there, and there's still curiosities and things like that. Like, I don't know, I feel like you're always gonna have those feelings and that curiosity until you like don't. Maybe that's just me, but I think spinning the block, I wouldn't necessarily, I don't think that it's, there's like a right one answer of like, yeah, you should spin the block, or no, you shouldn't, because your ex is your ex. But I don't know. I just feel like sometimes you can meet people at different places in time, and like it's because of the way that the relationship, because of who you guys are now, like the relationship could be different. But I don't know. I've never spun the block, so I can't really say if it's been successful or not. But if you have spun the block and it's been successful or not, like definitely chime in, because I want to know. I'm curious to know, like, when people spin the block, do they have success? Or is it just opening up a whole nother like can of worms, and now everybody got to reheal and go through the process? I had a friend recently that told me that they spun the block. They spun the block, and it didn't work out. So I guess that's Lou said never works. Never works. See, like I said, I've never done it, so I don't know. But yeah, they definitely told me it didn't work out, and they definitely are healing now because of that. So I don't know. But yeah, so leave your comments, leave your ideas, your thoughts, things like that. Suggestions for next week's book. And also know that, like I said, I just dropped the song today, like just released it today. It's called Bye. And there's going to be a lot of different commotion around that song, just so you guys know. Like, this is just the beginning. Me and Jasmine, also known as London Elixir, we have a lot in store with that song, and it's only the beginning. For those of you who know me, I've been working on Remember Me Part 2, which is essentially like the loviest, doviest version of me that the world will probably see or has seen thus far. I'm typically not like an open book when it comes to things, but I was super vulnerable on Remember Me Part 2. So I will be releasing that soon. And yeah, any other things? Happy Sunday as always. Thank you guys for tuning in. Send this to a friend that's going through a breakup or that's trying to foster healthy relationships. Like, comment, share, all the above, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.